Here we have a Mesa Lonestar, and the complaint is it's blowing fuses. Now, before I look inside the amp, there are a couple of things that stood out. First of all, this rectifier tube was very, very loose because whatever used to be in here had expanded the bear trap out, and so this had no support. This is a 5U4 GB, possibly fine, but the primary cause of blowing fuses is usually a bad tube, so I'm going to put that to the side. And here we have 4 Mesa branded 6L6 GCs. Note that these two say green and these two say gray. And the two that say gray have all this darkening of the spacer, as if there's been something up with these. And these are also loose in the bear traps, which were pressed down too far. To fix that, you just bend it back up to where it's supposed to be and then let the tube push it open and it'll grab. If I had to guess what the problem was, it would be one or both of these tubes were drawing more current. If you're combining unmatched tubes to make a quad like this, you would want green, green, gray, gray. So each side of the push-pull output section would have about the same amount of current, even if this tube doesn't match to this tube. All this means is that this tube, this marked as gray, is supposed to draw a certain amount with the fixed bias. The fixed bias, it's non-adjustable from Mesa, and the green is supposed to draw a different amount. So in theory, you'd want to have all 4 of them green or all 4 of them gray. If you must mismatch, you'd want to have one of each pair on each outer pair. So if that makes sense. So this one here, you would have had green, gray, green, gray. Each push-pull pair would have had about the same amount of current. For right now, I'm going to put these to the side. They may be fine. Let's see if anything's wrong inside the amp. All right, the very blown fuse was a 3 amp. This amp takes a 4 amp fuse. So let me toss that blown 3 amp and put in the correct 4 amp slow blow. And I like to put it in so that if someone pulls it out, you can see the 4 amp or 3 amp, whatever written at the end, which is not in the fuse holder. Make sure that fuse holder's tight. It is. All right, I've got the rectifier tube out. I've got the power tubes out. I'm going to power it on using my current limiter to see where we're at. I don't see anything visibly wrong in the rest of the amp. Nothing seems to be burned. The 4 screen grid resistors on the output tubes are 1 watt carbon comps, which are kind of crappy things that Mesa insists on using. And they measure everywhere from 390 ohms to 330 ohms, but they all still measure okay. Now I've got it in standby using the silicone diodes, so we'll have a B+. Just takes that bad rectifier tube out of the equation, hopefully. Let's take it out of standby. And I don't have any current draw out of the amp whatsoever. Let's see what the voltage is. So here we have 209. Here we have 420. Now, why was there a sound when I measured that? Anyway, I guess I was hitting this. Yeah. All right, so we have 420 volts with no rectifier tube, no real current being drawn, and nothing connected to the power tubes. Let's power it up in the tweed mode. Similarly, no issue. And the voltage there in tweed mode is 370, just about. All right, back to off, back to standby. We're going to test this rectifier tube in isolation from everything else. So it's going to use the tube rectifier this time. It's in standby, and I'm going to power it on. We're going to watch my light. Well, I'm going to watch my light bulb limiter and watch that rectifier tube and see what B+ we get. All right, we have 436 volts coming out. I'm going to tap on the tube. There it goes. Let me let you see this since the light bulb limiter is limiting the potential of the catastrophe. All right, so let me power this off. I think the mystery is about to be solved. That doesn't mean it's the entire problem. That rectifier is kaput. But when we put in the the 6L6s rather, in silicone mode, make sure we don't have bad output tubes as well, or that none of them were damaged. And I'm going to put them back like green, gray, gray, green, as discussed. All right, so in standby, powering it on, watching them warm up. I don't see any glow on this one. There it is. It's just slow to heat. All right, take out a standby. We're going to watch. Wait, let me connect the speaker first. Light bulb is saying there's a fairly normal amount of current. I can hear it through the speaker as I tap, but it's not terrible. This one's the noisiest. This one's not great. So if the budget allows, I would recommend all new output tubes, since one of the greens is noisy and one of the grays is noisy. But let me plug a guitar in and see what the sound is like. Well, with the solid state rectification, both channels are working fine in both the 100 watt and 50 watt settings. But if I go to the 10 watt setting, the sound cuts out entirely, fades out. And I suspect it's one of the bad output tubes. So yeah, if you go to the 10 watt mode, the sound begins to get distorted and fade like that. And that tells me that one of these output tubes is not really happy, which I suspected. I don't remember which configuration of output tubes this model uses in 10 watts mode. I will look that up at some point before I send this amp back, just to verify that everything else is hunky-dory. But I think the first step is just some new tubes, and hopefully the budget will allow all new truly matched 6L6s or EL34s. The price is the same. The amp sounds pretty much the same with both. I won't get too far into it, but Mesa doesn't really optimize the transformer for either, etc., etc. So if the owner wants 6L6s, if he wants EL34s, or she, I haven't looked at the name on the ticket yet, won't be a problem. The most important thing is just to get a non-death-inducing 5U4G. So relatively easy repair.